to be completely honest with you, I wasn't listening to a thing you just said.
My leg looks like Picasso. see, God damn it. Have you?
I think you know the answer.
You. Oh my God. This man, he needs to be studied in a lab.
I can explain everything.
No, he can't.
I can explain.
There is no shot.
The Lakers.
I'm not going to let you choose the Lakers.
Damn
Pick
it.
something else. We made such a mess. I am a casual.
We are mega casuals. Okay, hi. Yeah, you guys saw that there was just the intro and no Zach here. So yeah, as you guys can tell, I'm not at the house. I'm at a house, not the house though. Christmas obviously happened. Zach and I were hoping to do an in-person pod this week, but with Christmas and everything, it's kind of hard to get schedules to align. We almost had it. We were so close, but we were unable to do it. So we'll have both of us back virtually next week. But yeah, sorry. I gotta let the cat out. Hold on, give me a second. Yeah. Okay, so yes, completely unedited. So big weekend of freaking football, though. I'll definitely say that. I'll go game by game, but also I'm not gonna spend too much time on games that like either didn't matter or weren't that exciting, if they did matter. And we're just gonna go in order. So Thursday night we had the Rams and the Saints game. On paper it looks close because it was an 8-point game. Derek Carr is not good. He's good when they don't need him to be good, but he's good. Yeah, he'll put up points in garbage time. But that's because the defenses are playing for garbage time. So like it's easy to get yards when you're throwing eight of your passes to Alvin Kamara, which get you 5 yards each. So that's 40 yards right there, just because Alvin Kamara can get you 5 yards per pass. But I'm not going to focus on the Saints. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs anymore. The Buccaneers look like the best team in that division. So what I will focus on is the Rams, who in my opinion are kind of like the Buffalo Bills of the NFC right now. What do I mean by that? What I mean is they're not going to be a divisional team. They're going to be a wild card team, and they're going to be a wild card team that teams are not going to want to play in the playoffs. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. If they have to go into Dallas could be a little scared. And I'm not saying Dallas is a bad team. It's just the Rams are playing super hot right now, like really good. That's the thing. This game was an 8-point game, but it was a blowout the entire time. And I think the thing that's really helping the Rams right now is, and this isn't anything new, it's just having two options. The last time we saw the Rams this successful with Matthew Stafford as their quarterback was when they had Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. Now they have that complimentary piece in Puka Nacua to Cooper Kupp, though Cooper Kupp hasn't been that sick. He's been fine. Like, he's been a good receiver, but he hasn't been what we expect from Cooper Kupp. So I think that's why people think he's been a bit of a letdown. But he's still been a really good receiver. And then obviously the biggest part though is Kyren Williams. They're finally, in the entire time that Matt Stafford has been on this team, they have not had like one single running back that works with them. They've had pieces, but they haven't had like a single running back. I think in their Super Bowl that they won, that was Sony Michel, I think, who was running for them. So it was way past the Todd Gurley time, and Cam Akers wasn't really what they wanted him to be. But Kyren Williams, man, averaging basically 100 yards rushing per game. He's over 1,000 yards. He missed like 6 games due to injury. He's over 1,000. He would, in my opinion, be in an MVP conversation right now, kind of like how C-Mac is, if he played the entire season. I can hear the dog. So yeah, my biggest takeaway from that game is no one wants to play the Rams. Like, let's think about this. NFC teams that I think the Rams could beat that are going to make the playoffs. The Eagles look beatable right now, so I will take the Eagles. Or I think the Rams could beat them. I think they could beat the Cowboys. Like, this is just like a could. Like, this isn't like what team is like if the Falcons made the playoffs, or the Buccaneers are going to make the playoffs, and I don't think the Buccaneers are really going to be too much of a threat against any team in the NFC. You just wanted to leave, and now you want to come back? I just yelled at the cat. I'm keeping this door closed. All right. So, let's keep going here. So, Eagles, I think the Rams could be a threat. Cowboys, There's just so much going on. Cowboys, I think the Rams could be a threat. Packers, Rams could be a threat. Lions, Rams could be a threat. Like, I think every NFC team should be worried about the Rams right now. So, and then that's why I kind of compare them to the Bills, because the Bills are on a bit of a hot streak themselves. Hopping into the next game that happened, Steelers-Bengals. This is such a hard game to judge. I don't think, like, because everyone, and myself included, are like, is Mason Rudolph the answer to Pittsburgh? And I don't think he is. And this is going to hurt me to say. I just don't think Mitch Trubisky was. And I'm still not going to judge Kenny, because Kenny had one game outside the Matt Canada system. And that game, we did have 400 total offensive yards. And, yeah, we only had 16 points, but we did have a fumble on a drive that we were most likely going to score a touchdown on. So that's 23 points, we'll say right there. And who knows how the rest of that game goes. So I do think it just looks like Mitchell Trubisky is kind of just not the right answer at all. But Mason Rudolph producing shows that maybe there's something when Kenny does come back. Now, does Kenny come back this week? If I'm the Steelers, I'm not playing Kenny. And Mike Tomlin did come out today in his press conference and say Mason Rudolph, as of right now, is the starter based on Kenny Pickett's injury. We'll see how Kenny progresses through the week, but we're going to plan as if Mason's the starter. And I think Mason should start no matter what. I'm not saying Mason's going to be the future of this team. 2019 Connor would be so happy if he was. But here's why. Kenny's still hurt, so you don't want to rush Kenny back. We're also so on the outside for a playoff spot that you don't... Like, yeah, we're playing for a playoff spot technically. We currently have a 17% chance to make the playoffs. We need to win out, and we need the Titans or Colts to lose a game, which they play each other in Week 17, so that'll happen unless they tie. And we need the Bills or Jaguars to lose a game, I believe, which is very possible. But we should be approaching the Seahawks game focusing on the future of this team, which is Kenny Pickett, and not play him, even if he's like somewhat healthy. Like, just Mason clearly can do what he needs to. And by the way, Cincinnati does not have a horrible defense. Their defense is mainly struggles against the run, not so much against the pass. So the fact that we torch them in the air, that's a lot. That means a lot. And so going up against the Seahawks, who have a very similar team, good secondary, they've been bad against the run, even since acquiring Leonard Williams, which is really, really weird. Pittsburgh should just play what they've been playing. Here's my only concern with Mason Rudolph and the passing game for the Steelers. It was two giant chunk plays. We had the 86-yard touchdown on the slant to Pickens, and we had the 66-yard bomb on 3rd and 1 to Pickens. So that's 86 and 66, 94. It's 154 yards right there on two plays. Mason threw for 290. So that's more than half of his total yardage in two plays. I will say, though, Mason looks so comfortable in the pocket. He's not forcing things. He only got sacked one time. He will get out of the pocket when he needs to. And that one play in the red zone, I think it was 3rd and 5 or 6. And he realized that there wasn't a throw there and just ran it and ran over a dude for a first down. Dude, made me want to get up and buy a Mason Rudolph jersey. So, yeah, I think he looks comfortable. He looks like a veteran. I think that's the best thing you can say. Like, if you watched Mitchell last week and then you watched Mason this week, you'd think Mitch was like the first-year, second-year player and that Mason was the mentor. But Mitch has been in the league longer than Mason. I think it's only 2 years, but still. But, yeah, I really think that Pittsburgh needs to play the hot hand in Mason, and he clearly has a connection with George. George was, 6 for 195 and 2. Again, 150 of those yards were on two plays, so you take those out, and that's 4 for 45, which is still not bad for a wide receiver. Like, that's an average day for a wide receiver. I will say George just passed over 1,000 yards receiving on the season. I think he's 56 receptions for 8 yards and 5 touchdowns. It's more yards and the same amount of touchdowns as Devontae Adams. Just saying. Devontae is in such a shitty situation, though. We'll talk about the Raiders later. But, yeah, I think if Pittsburgh makes the playoffs, they're not going to be a threat. The AFC is very beatable right now, but Pittsburgh is not strong enough, nor they're not schemed right to beat the teams in the. So, like, if Pittsburgh makes it as the 7th seed, it looks like they'd probably play Miami because Baltimore's probably going to get the bye. So Pittsburgh has to go to Miami. Miami that, like, puts up points nonstop, and their defense is getting better? No, this is not going to happen. The only team Pittsburgh might be able to beat in the playoffs is Jacksonville, but Pittsburgh would have to get, like, the 5 seed, and that's just not going to happen. Bengals, The playoff hopes are done. Jake Browning, it looks like his Cinderella story might have come to an end. They have the Chiefs this week. I think the Chiefs are going to win that game. But, yeah, I think Pittsburgh was on their fourth and fifth string middle linebackers because their third stringer went out in this game with like the third or fourth defensive play with a pectoral injury. So that was a fourth and fifth string linebacker. We had our cornerback move to safety because our first, second, and third string safeties, the first and second were hurt, and the third got suspended. So we were on our cornerback and fourth string safeties, and we had our rookie corner as our corner one, Levi Wallace as burnt toast as the corner two, and then was it Chandon Sullivan as our corner three, who rarely gets reps. So that was a defense that got 3 interceptions on Jake Browning. So I don't think that's a good defense that he was playing against. I think it was just Jake Browning's time kind of came to an end. JP said it best. I think he used up all of his magic to beat his former team last week. So that's that game. Bills Chargers 24-22. This game was close the entire time. Like, this wasn't like the Saints-Rams game, like the Rams were running away with it, and then the Saints just kind of crept up at the end. Like, there was a point where I think it was like 10-0 Chargers. Kind of concerning, but the Bills did get the win. And Josh Allen, this Bills team be so bad without him, man. So bad without him. Like, the run game struggled in this week after having a massive game against Dallas last week. And I mean, the Chargers are not very good against the run. They're just not very good. They did seem like they were playing for like something this time. Like, literally not having Brandon Staley in the building alone like made these guys want to play football, it looks like. But yeah, no, this should not have been this close of a game. Like, looking at the scores of the Bengals-Steelers game and the Bills-Chargers game, I would have thought they were flipped, and that like the Bengals-Steelers game would be 24-22 and that the Bills-Chargers game would be 34-11. But I still think the Bills are one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now. They're not going to win their division, but they're going to make a wild card and probably win the first round of the playoffs and get to the second round. And that's where things get really interesting for them. I just think that they need to get a consistent run game going, and they've had that for the last couple of weeks. It looks like it stuttered this week, and I don't know who they play next week. Do I? I don't know off the top of my head. But if they can get the run game like really heated up and just continue, like if you have one bad week, let's see, because I would argue that they've had before this like 4 straight weeks of a good running game ever since they fired their OC. So if you have, you know, the last, so that's 4, this week would be 5, 6, 7, 6 out of the last 7 games of the season, you have a competent running game that's winning you games. That one hiccup is not going to really do that much. So they just need to kind of get it back going next week and then push that into the playoffs with that momentum. And the Chargers just keep losing games so you can get a better pick and hopefully build this team better when John Harbaugh comes around, because that's what it's looking like. Yeah. Colts Falcons. You really want me to talk about this game? Colts worsened their playoff odds. Falcons used their players. I'm not going to spend time on this game. Like, if the Colts had won this, I feel like it would have been a little bit more interesting. But like I said, the NFC South is the Bucs to win, right, or the Bucs to lose right now. The Falcons, yeah, they won. Congratulations, Taylor Heineke. But like, this is such an up and down team right now. And the Colts, again, this would have been a bigger headline if the Colts had won, I feel like. But okay, that was like our who cares bowl of the week. Okay, this one, Packers Panthers. I play fantasy football. I had the Chiefs defense going against Raiders this week, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to play for high ceiling. So I'm going to pick up the Packers defense, which was on the waiver wire. You know, playing the Carolina defense or Carolina offense, which has been struggling not like the last couple weeks, the entire season. And the Packers almost lose this game. The Packers were Carolina just needed a successful spike to possibly win this game, and it just didn't happen. So, honestly, last 2 weeks, Bryce Young is actually showing that he can be a competent NFL quarterback in this league. He just needs, like, the right tools around him. And I think if Ben Johnson does become their OC, like I'm kind of expecting is going to happen, I think that the Panthers are probably going to throw him, like, $16 million a year, and that'll be that. And so he'll be the head coach, and he'll probably have to bring his own scheme and coordinators and everything. But I think if Ben Johnson can translate over to the Panthers, everything he's been doing in Detroit, I think Bryce Young might have a brighter future. But the Packers is like, this game should not have been this close. It's just the defense. Green Bay's defense is what's going to lose them. Like, if they make it into the playoffs and they lose, it's because their defense. Like, their offense, Jordan Love had a great game. And this was without his top 3 receivers, I'm pretty sure. Because we already knew Watson was out. And then I think he had 2 go down in the game. And so it was basically like the Jordan Love and Aaron Jones show. And so if you can do that, like Jordan Love needs to get more credit, and Jordan Love is clearly going to be the future of this organization because he's just gotten better every single week. He had a hiccup, was it 2 weeks ago or last week? But like I said, when you're a growing quarterback, I'd rather see my franchise's future quarterback have 1 hiccup rather than like multiple in a season. And so I think Jordan Love's definitely going to be that guy. But this game should not have been this close. But it's the same thing we've been saying all season, which is like the Packers defense needs to just revitalize everything. And it's not like they don't have the pieces. Like, they do have really good players with like Kenny Clark, Rasul Douglas, their second Jair Alexander. They could use some better safety options. But I think at the end of the day, it's just coordination. So they should fire their defensive coordinator and look in the offseason, which I think they will do. Browns, Texans. I heard Rich Eisen say that Joe Flacco is going to get MVP votes. And at first I was like, huh? And I thought about it. Guys, Joe Flacco actually looks really good. It's 2023. He is, since playing for the Ravens, he has played for the Broncos, the Jets, and the Browns. And if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that Joe Flacco would be leading one of the like hottest teams in the NFL, like I said, the Bills were the hottest and the Rams were the hottest. The Browns are up there, man. Joe Flacco actually looks really good, and it doesn't make sense. And so here's my thing. If I'm the Browns and next season's rolling around, you have a $230 million quarterback who did jack fucking shit with this exact same team. This is the team without Nick Chubb and on their 4th quarterback option after Deshaun, PJ, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and he came off the couch. And this team is going to make the playoffs. They technically could still make the 1 seed. They're not going to, but they technically could. What this game means to me is that Kevin Stefanski should be the coach of the year. I almost said Dan Orlovsky. It's the Lions. I love, I can't think of his name, Dan Campbell. I love Dan Campbell. I love the Texans right now with DeMeco Ryans. And I love how Minnesota has been able to fight through the Kirk Cousins injury and what McDonald's been doing. Why am I having such a hard time remembering all these coaches' names? But the point I'm trying to make is Kevin Stefanski is on his 4th quarterback. He's on his 2nd. You didn't just lose a quarterback or lose multiple quarterbacks and go to his 4th option. He also lost arguably the best running back, 2nd best. CMC's by far in a way. He lost the 2nd best running back in football. And they're still competing. If I had told you at the beginning of the season that Joe Flacco would be the quarterback for this team, you'd expect them to be 5-12 come week 18, but no, they're 10. Are they 10-6? They're 10-5. They're 10-5. They're 2 wins away from a 12-5 season with 4 different quarterbacks. As a Steelers fan, I don't want to say the Browns are impressive, but they are. And the Texans just need CJ Stroud, and it looks like are they gonna make the playoffs? CJ's going to come back this week because it was just because of the concussion. That's why he was out. If they win in Week 17, they'll probably make the playoff. Oh. So those last 3 spots. The Bills are going to get 1, so there's 2 spots left. Texans. Oh, the Browns are going to get 1 too. So it's literally the last spot. So it's Texans, Colts, Broncos, Steelers, essentially. Texans, Broncos, Colts. The Texans are the best out of that group. I don't know. Oh, man, that CJ injury might really come back to haunt them. That's going to be rough. Moving on, Lions, Vikings. Not much I can really say about this game. Jahmyr Gibbs looks amazing. Jared Goff loves playing in a dome. I guess I could talk about how, the Lions is their first time winning the division in ever, I think, right? This is the first time they've ever won the NFC North, I'm pretty sure, and this is the first time they're going back to the playoffs since 1993. I wasn't even born yet. I wasn't even conceived. I wasn't even a thought. I was 7 years before I was born. That's 30 years ago. Holy crap. But yeah, so good for them. I mean, they've had their issues, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think if they get CJ Gardner-Johnson back, that they'll be more of a threat. But right now, I'd love to see them in the Super Bowl. I think they're one of the funnest teams in the NFL right now. I just don't know. Like, they can't beat the Niners. The Eagles look beatable. The Cowboys look beatable, and they do play the Cowboys this week, so that'll be a good showing of like what this team is. I think this week against the Cowboys will show us if the Lions are to be feared in the playoffs or not. They look fun, but like you can be fun and not be feared, and I think that's what they need right now. Like the Ravens are fun and feared right now. The Dolphins are fun but not feared because of how malleable they've been, especially like their defense has gotten better, but they still. It's a question of if they can beat really good teams, which they did beat the Cowboys this week, which we'll talk about that later. But I think this week's game for the Lions against the Cowboys will really show us if they're going to be scary in the playoffs. And that game is in Dallas, I'm pretty sure. So, Washington and the Jets. Both of these teams are closer to a higher draft pick. Sam Howell is not the future of the Commanders. Eric Bieniemy is one of the greatest coordinators in the is one of the greatest coordinators in the league right now because he got Sam Howell to be in the top 5 in passing yards in the NFL. Seahawks, Titans. Seahawks are keeping their playoff hopes alive, and the Titans are closer to a draft pick, and me and Zach were right that the Titans are going to be ass, and the Titans fans were super salty that we predicted this. Me and Zach got way too much shit for saying the Titans were going to be ass coming into the season, and we were right. Will Levis is the future of this team, though. This team clearly they have a jolt with Will Levis. Ryan Tannehill, just like So we're gonna pass that game. Jaguars, Buccaneers. Is Trevor Fields a bust? No. All right, I've seen so many people comparing his first 46 starts to Daniel Jones's first 46 starts, and people are like, "Wow, it's identical." Do we not take into consideration the first 15 of those starts? He had Urban Meyer as his coach. Do we just forget that happened? Is that just a thing people forgot happened? We should be giving Trevor a 15-game handicap. As a real thing. So we can't be judging him. Now, has Trevor looked good? No, he has not looked how we've expected him to look. He's shown flashes. He's had a couple games this season especially where it's like, yeah, this is the guy we wanted to come out of Clemson. This is the guy we thought was going to be like the next Andrew Luck, the next John Elway coming out of college. This is the prospect that we thought was one of the best quarterback prospects in the last 12 years coming out of the draft. But he hasn't been that consistently, and I also think he's just been banged up a lot too. He is leaving every game. I would know. I have him in fantasy. He's leaving every game hurt. So it's literally every single week. It's a question mark of if he's going to play or not. So has he been a bust? No. Has he been what we expected? No. If we're comparing him, he's Jared Goff. Really bad first season because of the scheme and the coaching staff. And he's been a average to slightly above average quarterback ever since. Is that fair? Is that fair? And I'm a guy pushing for Trevor Lawrence. Is that fair for me to say? I think that's pretty fair. Buccaneers, though, extend Baker. Get him a better OC because if Mike Evans walks, it might be a little bit of a struggle. But, yeah, so the Buccaneers offseason should be re-sign Baker or extend Baker and re-sign Mike Evans because those two are dynamic with each other. Mike Evans is over 1,000 yards again, 13 touchdowns. Mike Evans is not known as the touchdown. Well, he's known as the short, barely 1,000 yards and then a couple touchdowns. A good example for this is in fantasy. If you're drafting him so he can get 2 receptions for 20 yards and a touchdown. That's what you draft him for. But he's gotten the yards, the receptions, and the touchdowns this year, and Baker's just feeding him in the most fun and efficient way possible. Chris Godwin's been a non-factor essentially the entire season. This is a team that hasn't needed a consistent tight end. Also, Rachaad White's one of the most underrated running backs in the league right now, and I think that's actually going to benefit Tampa Bay because they're going to be able to extend him for super cheap because no one really thinks about Rachaad White when you think about one of the best, one of the more better consistent running backs in the NFL. So I think this is a guy that's probably going to be their running back for the next 3 or 4 years unless there's a generational draft prospect and they are able to grab him. But Rachaad White is very much like a James Conner for the Cardinals. they're not flashy, but they produce consistently and they are reliable. And also, Rashad White's not injury prone, so hold on to him for right now. And Buccaneers aren't going to be a threat in the playoffs, but they'll be a fun team to watch. Like, I'd love to watch them play, not the Niners or the Eagles, but, like, again, the Cowboys would be kind of fun. I think a Rams-Buccaneers game would actually be really fun. The Rams would win that, but it'd be a fun game to watch. So, yeah, I think if, like, a Seahawks make the playoffs, then they could be like a Seahawks team, but they're just not going to be a major threat. But they're a really fun team to watch right now, and they're also one of the most like untalked about teams, so I think they do deserve a little bit more respect and attention from the league. Bears-Cardinals. Justin Fields looks good. Cardinals look bad. I think. Wait, this actually, I will say, isn't this with the Patriots losing, the Cardinals move up to the second pick, right? If the Bears take Marvin Harrison with the first overall pick and the Cardinals are on the clock, do the Cardinals take Caleb Williams or do they trade Kyler? Or do they take Caleb Williams and trade Kyler or do they trade the pick? Man. If Chicago wants to fuck with the Cardinals, they could take Marvin Harrison with the first overall pick. They're not going to. They're going to trade it. But Cardinals have a difficult offseason to make decisions on. Zach just texted me? What did Zach just text me? Oh. It was a meme. You're a menace, Zach. But, again, this is kind of like a game of the week. But this does have draft implications because the Cardinals are going to have a really, really interesting decision to make this offseason with Kyler. Cowboys, Dolphins. I don't know what to make of this game. I know one thing. Tony Pollard is not the future of this team, and if he is, he's a very cheap future for this team. The Cowboys need a goal line back because Tony Pollard is not that. The Cowboys need a wide receiver 2 to lay some of the help off of CeeDee Lamb. They could use a guy like, I don't know, like maybe Amari Cooper. I think that'd be a good trade asset for him. I think if they had like a very, very good 2 and then Brandon Cooks is your 3, it's a phenomenal. They're already a phenomenal offense, but they're an even better offense. I will say Dallas was suffering some injuries on the offensive line standpoint, so there is that as well. But they also took the lead with a minute and 30 seconds left, and this is supposed to be one of the best defenses in the league. I will say you are playing one of the best offenses in the league, and that's led by one of the best offensive minds, Mike McDaniel. So there is that too, but there was like a holding that I did see, literally just grabbing the pants right at the ass line of CeeDee Lamb. So there is stuff like that, but also I'm not going to listen to Cowboys fans complain about the refs because when there's a specific ref crew, I don't remember which one it's led by, but they're 7-0 when they're reffing for the Cowboys. So I don't want to hear that the Cowboys don't get good calls, okay? That's a real thing that happens. Don't want to hear it. And then Broncos, Patriots. Do the Patriots just not want Caleb Williams? Because when you guys are getting a better opportunity to get a better draft pick, you guys win. So what's that about? Also, thank you for making me think that a nuclear explosion went off when the missed field goal happened. Jesus Christ. Just allows... I'm not going to recreate that on the mic for you guys, but you know what I'm talking about. And the Broncos, man, you guys were, in my opinion, about to be a lock for the playoffs with the rest of the schedule that you guys had and the way you guys were playing football. I thought you guys were going to be a lock for a playoff spot. I thought it was going to be like Browns, Bills, Broncos, just the 3 Bs right there. But this really is going to hurt you guys. Now I think you guys have an uphill battle because, like I was going to talk about earlier, with CJ, the Texans are a better team. The Broncos, I think, are a better team than the Colts and the Steelers. I would probably, if I had to rank it, go... Don't make me do this. If I have to rank these teams, Texans, Broncos, Steelers, Colts. Steelers and Colts are interchangeable, though. But yeah, I just think it's an uphill battle now, and the Broncos got to start looking at the future of the quarterback position. Not that Russell's been horrible this year, because it's actually been a very bounce-back season for Russell, but they need youth at that position. But you don't have any draft picks, so want. And then on the Monday slate, the Raiders beating the Chiefs. Dude, the Chiefs are so broken right now, and I don't get it. Actually, I do get it, and I'm going to talk about it. Because here's the thing. They did not. This isn't like a drastically different offense than last year. The biggest difference is that Travis Kelce's 1 year older. That's it. It's basically the same wide receiver core, except you added MVS via trade, and then that's it. And you could also argue that this offense got better because now you have another year with Isaiah Pacheco, who's been running. He's been one of the best running backs in the league when he's been on the field, and you got another year with like you guys traded for Kadarius Toney last season, and now you have another year to like implement him into the system, but it just didn't work. So like this was a year where you had an additional year to mesh with this team, so it'd be a fair argument to say that they should be a better team, and they've been worse. And here's what I think is happening, and no one's talking about. I don't see any talking heads on any of the networks or any social media platforms talking about this. And I don't get why. Eric Bieniemy was a massive part as to what the success of the Chiefs has been the last 5-6 seasons. Andy Reid's still a great offensive mind, but Eric Bieniemy left this team, had Sam Howell be a top 5 yardage quarterback in the NFL on one of the worst offenses in the league. So he does that. At the same time, in the same season, the Chiefs' offense starts to plummet with the exact same roster as last season. But no one's going to say that Eric Bieniemy is one of the best coordinators in the league and deserves a head coaching spot. No one's going to talk about that. That blows my mind. I think this team really does need Eric Bieniemy. I mean, they have – who's their OC? It's Matt's I can't think of his name. Ex-head coach of the Chicago Bears. I can't think of his name. Because they have Matt Eberflus right now. I can't think of his name, but you guys know who I'm talking about. So they have him calling, it's just a new play caller, and so it really shows how important Eric Bieniemy was to this team. The defense is still pretty good. Like, Aiden O'Connell had 65 passing yards in the first quarter. He ended the game with 65 passing yards. So, Zamir White was their best offensive option in this game, filling in for Josh Jacobs. So the defense is not a problem. The defense has actually been really good. I just think that the offense has been so bad and inconsistent. And it's funny because I really do like Patrick Mahomes. This team isn't like the Patriots where you hated everyone on the Patriots. The Patriots were very hateable when they were in their prime in their dynasty because it felt like they were taking their winning for granted. They're like, yeah, we win. So what? They weren't having fun with it. It was like, you should be enjoying this, you know? The Chiefs actually, they have fun. It's hard to root against. Like on Travis Kelce's podcast, you see that he's just like a human being, you know? He jokes around. He is a human. Can he be a bit of an ass, a bit of an asshat on the sidelines and a crybaby sometimes? Yeah, he can. But to be fair, this is a team that hasn't really faced adversity much in the last 6 years. So this is something kind of new to them. And so I really do want to root for Patrick Mahomes, but he has been a bit of a crybaby. I don't like that term. He's been a bit, what's an adult term of a crybaby? It's been a bit of a crybaby. Yeah, it's just, I don't think it's all the refs, but it does seem like the refs have been kind of laying off the pedal a little bit on them and not giving them as many easy first downs and everything. But also people need to remember that, the refs are not always on the Chiefs' side. I'm old enough to remember when the Chiefs lost the Patriots in the playoffs because of a horrible call that went against the Chiefs. So, that's a stupid argument, in my opinion. But, yeah, this is a team that needs a better offensive coordinator, which I don't think will be hard. I think next year they'll be back. I don't think they're going to contend. I'm not going to say that because it's the Chiefs. I'm not going to say that either. I don't know. Because once the playoffs come, who knows? They're just not going to have a bye. That's for sure. So they're going to have to play in the first round of the playoffs for the first time ever, I think. And it's going to be a real challenge for them. It wouldn't surprise me if they were eliminated in the playoffs because of how they've been playing, but also wouldn't surprise me if they ended up making the Super Bowl because of just the talent and the coaching on this team. I spent way too much time on that. I spent 3 minutes. It's not that much time. Eagles-Giants. Jalen Hurts still does not look good. Jalen Hurts as an elite quarterback is in question. I'm the same guy that thought he was one of the best players in their entire team and I think he's overrated. I still thought he was one of the best players on the team. I go back to he's overrated now. he has how many rushing touchdowns this year, and how many of them have been because of the tush push. Like, I hate people are like, yeah, he has more rushing touchdowns than Cam Newton now. It's like, dude, I'm old enough. Cam Newton was doing front flips over people. He was like, these were 20, 25-yard runs into the end zone. Like, I know Jalen Hurts had that one run against, was it Dallas in overtime? Like, yeah, he has a couple of those, but 95% of his runs, he's just getting pushed up the ass, which, again, I don't hate the tush push. I think it's a great play. I don't think it should be outlawed because it's just football. I think it's stupid that they're looking into turning that over and making it not like a legal play anymore. I think that's stupid. Just because it's not like every team is abusing it. If one team is good at it and no one else is good at it, then clearly there's a schematic thing there. That's just the reality of the situation. So it shouldn't be banned, in my opinion. But Jalen Hurts is definitely benefiting off of it, and I'm glad that he's no longer like in MVP talks and stuff like that, which we'll talk about MVP at the end of the video. And then lastly, Ravens demolished the Niners. Brock Purdy's MVPs, he's no longer in consideration. And now Lamar is the leader of MVP. We'll talk about MVP in a second. The Ravens proved in this game. I'm a Steelers fan, and I'm saying this. The Ravens proved that they're the best team in the NFL right now. They are equally on par with the Niners. I think if the Niners play them again, most likely in the Super Bowl, it would be a really, really good matchup. I don't think it would be like this. I think the Ravens have the second best defense in the league, and the Niners were not ready for that. The Niners were not ready for that. Just get hit in the mouth with that. I mean, Brock Purdy looked great this entire season. He threw 4 interceptions in one game, in 3 quarters, you know. What I will say, too, is I don't think Brock Purdy should have ever been MVP. I think the MVP is on his team, in Christian McCaffrey, and I think he was when you put an average quarterback surrounded by, at minimum, 4 All-Pros, you could say, in Juszczyk, that counts. He's the best player at his position. C-Mac, Debo, and I can't think of his name. Oh, my God. Offensive tackle, left tackle. Why is it slipping? Trent Williams. Jesus. So if you have arguably 4 All-Pros in Juszczyk, yes, it counts. Debo, C-Mac, and Trent Williams, and then the greatest offensive mind in the NFL right now, like, he should be putting up really good numbers. Like, now if you put a Mahomes on this team, if Mahomes was on the Niners, let's not use Mahomes because Mahomes would be insane. Let's put, who's kind of like in a Brock, Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold came in and looked like John Elway in this game, like literally. Like, yeah, he threw an interception in the red zone when he was trying to force the throw, but he still looked better than Brock Purdy did in this game. Like, Kyle Shanahan will take average quarterbacks and make them great. This is why Aaron Rodgers was available last season, and I was like, the Niners should consider trading for him because holy shit, that would be insane, and they didn't. But like, if you put Aaron Rodgers on this team if he like never got hurt and he was healthy, Rodgers is probably throwing for 5,500 yards, 45 touchdowns, like literally, while also having C-Mac probably rush for 17 touchdowns, and this is the best team in football by a mile. One of the best teams probably arguably in football history, especially over the last like 20 years. Like, that's a reality of the situation. And then talking about MVP, Lamar's leading the race right now, and I'm not saying Lamar's had a bad season, and that he hasn't had a good one, but my ladder is CMC, Tyreek, a very, very large gap, and then Lamar. Because, yeah, the Ravens are the best team in football right now, and Lamar just played a really, really arguably the best defense in football, and he showed that he can play up against them. He didn't have very many errors. The only error he arguably had was when a ref tripped him. So, out of his control. But the reason I say a really, really big gap between 1, 2, and then 3 is because we're talking valuable here. And you take Tyreek off of the Dolphins, we generally don't know. They had 1 week without him last week, and yeah, they won, but they were also playing the Jets. So, like, the Jets are a good defense, but when you can run the ball, like, well, it's not a very good. I would love to see the Dolphins without Tyreek against, like, the Niners, you know? And it's hard to also judge that because Mike McDaniel came in the same season that Tyreek came in, so it's like it's a chicken or egg situation. Like, who's the bigger factor there? Is it Mike McDaniel or is it Tyreek? But Tyreek just changes that entire offense. So that's why he's 2. And then Christian McCaffrey is just he has more total touchdowns than some quarterbacks do. I think more than half of the quarterbacks in the NFL right now. He has 24 total touchdowns, I'm pretty sure, or 23. He's basically, if you were a betting man, he's a lock for a touchdown every single week. Wow, he didn't score a touchdown one time this season. That is 16 games he has played, and in 15 he has scored at least 1 touchdown. That's fucking insane. That's insanity. He is by far and away, like, we can't just because the quarterback does most of like they do the play calling, they do the audibling, they lead the entire team. Like, yeah, they are the leader of that of an entire franchise. They're the general of the offense essentially. Just because they're such an important part, like they're the point guard of a football team, but you don't see a point guard winning the MVP in the NBA every year just because they organize an offense, because they set everything up. That's their job, and you're doing your job well. That's awesome. But if you're standing out to the point where like people are like, this guy's making quarterbacks look kind of, like, or this guy's making quarterbacks even better, like CMC and Tyreek are. That's where I just think those two land. So yeah, that's every game this week. I'm excited for next week. Obviously, me and Zach will be back next week together. But yeah, it's basically all I have to talk about this week. MVP, defensive player of the year, still in my opinion should be TJ Watt. He has 17 sacks, 56 pressures, 3 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, an interception, and technically a touchdown as well. So on a team that's horrible, not this week, but the last 3 they were very bad. So like he might finish the season with 20 sacks, and if that player doesn't get a defensive player of the year, that's actually insane. I think Myles Garrett is still leading the race. I love Myles Garrett. I think he's a phenomenal player. I think he gets too much crap for like the love PFF gives him. I do think PFF gives him way too much love, and they like generate statistics to make him appear better than certain players, which like does hurt his case. But I don't think that like it's fair for people to judge him just because one specific football study group seems to value him. I still think he is the second best player in football right now. Like, in my opinion, it's between TJ and Miles Jack. It really is. And I just think TJ has been better this season. But they're on par with each other. This is what I like about the NFL instead of the NBA. Like, the NBA, ex-players just tear each other down, and they just shit on each other. Like, oh, if I was playing this, that's all they do. But modern NFL players, historic NFL players, all they do is like praise and like talk about how much they love what the modern NFL is doing, and like that's what I love about it. And like TJ and Miles have talked about it, like they have a massive amount of respect for each other, and it's not like, oh, I'm so much better than him or he's so much better than me. It's just like we're both dominant in our positions. One just might be having a better year. If Miles wins Defensive Player of the Year, it doesn't necessarily mean he's a better player than TJ Watt. It just means he had a better season. If TJ wins Defensive Player of the Year, it doesn't necessarily mean he's a better player than Myles Garrett. It means he had a better season than Myles Garrett. That doesn't make them equally bad players, So that's what I have to say. Like, every year that Aaron Donald didn't win Defensive Player of the Year, we weren't like, yeah, this guy's clearly better than like when Stephon Gilmore won it over Aaron Donald. No one was like, yeah, Stephon Gilmore's a better defensive player than Aaron Donald. No, just Stephon Gilmore had an insane season, and we respected that season. And that's what Defensive Player of the Year comes down to, in my opinion. It's who had the best season. That's why it's season by season. That you're not just awarding the best overall defensive player. You're giving it to the one that had the best season that year, the one who had the biggest impact on their team that year. So that's what I have to say about that. Offensive Rookie of the Year is also going to be really interesting because Puka had another insane game and CJ's been out. So it's like if CJ had stayed healthy, he'd still have it locked up, but Puka's continued his greatness. So like that's going to be really interesting. And honestly, like Jahmyr Gibbs would have a very fair argument as well. He's been insane since like week 7. So there's that. And then Defensive Rookie of the Year, like Jalen Carter had a phenomenal start to the season, but lately it's been like Joey Porter Jr., so like those two. So the award races are going to be really interesting. And obviously DeMar Hamlin's kind of like a lock for Comeback Player of the Year because he was able to play football again. But like Joe Flacco has a fair argument. For half of the season, he was on the couch and he comes in and like just revitalizes the Cleveland Browns, pushing them into the playoffs. So, and then Coach of the Year, again, like Kevin Stefanski arguably, in my opinion, should be it because of what he's done with so many changes to his offense, whether it be quarterback or running back. So, like, there's just so many close battles this year. It's really nice to see the parity. So, yeah, I think if I had to give my votes, MVP is CMC. Defensive player of the year is TJ Watt. Coach of the year is Kevin Stefanski. Offensive rookie of the year. I can't penalize CJ just because he got hurt. I'd still say CJ is the best rookie this year. And then defensive rookie of the year, I'd have to give it to Joey Porter Jr. because he's the cornerback one on a team, so he's constantly having to match up against wide receiver ones, and he's the highest graded rookie, or the highest graded corner, I think, in the league right now. So that's where I'd go with all those. And then come back, I'd probably just give it to DeMar just because he was at least able to play football again. When I remember last season, people were like, he's never going to be able to play football ever again. So I just think that's an amazing story. Yeah, he might not have been great, but he played football again. So don't worry. We'll talk about awards next week. We'll probably be talking about awards every single week up until the awards actually come out, and then we'll talk about our reactions to them as well. So these will be constantly updating, but that's where I stand right now. That's my rankings. Anyways, I've been talking for 45 minutes, so I'm going to go export this. And then, also Merry Christmas, guys. Happy New Year as well. We won't see you guys until the new year. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope you guys had a great 2023. I'll talk about. There's still a week left in mine, so I'm not going to jinx anything. But I hope you guys had a great 2023, and I look forward to what we're about to do in 2024. And I also just look forward to a brand new year as well. It's always nice to see a little new slate. So, we're coming up on a year and a half of having Zach on the podcast, so it's been super nice. Anyways, I'm going to go put this together and then enjoy the rest of my time with my family. All right, bye, guys.